with a very complicated puzzle on Theme Park, and who gets the lead for this series to put them that much closer to the title for Stage 1 here in the NAL.
And again, to remind you all, both these teams have made the major. These were our first and second teams to qualify for the Copenhagen Major, but this is for money, this is for SI points, and most importantly, for the clout. And in my opinion, that is the most important part, and the most important thing they are fighting for today.
Bragging rights.
Exactly. Monty Ban starts things off. M80 likely saw the DarkZero game last week and thought, you know, these guys are running an awful lot of Monty. Perhaps we should remove that operator and stop Canadian from playing it. And I also love this ban from DarkZero. M80, I don't have statistics on this, but just from the eye test, seemed to me to be the best Ying team in the NAL, or at least the most exciting and flashy to watch. I would not want to play against them with a Ying on the board.
Zami is going to be the first ban for the defensive side. Once again, we've already seen that twice in our previous series. She is once again going to be lined right up for the ban in our next series too. Still incredibly universally useful, especially when she's able to set herself up on her own. This is a map where she can do that quite proficiently. A little bit of a curveball though for the final ban, as we're not going to get one of the usual suspects to fill out that last defensive ban. It's going to be Echo instead, but Echo sees quite a bit of play on this map, especially interior to the site itself, so it makes pretty good sense when you consider that.
Both these teams have actually played a little bit more Echo, maybe a little bit more than the mean that we often see in the NAL, just because Echo is sometimes foregone for certain reasons, though in this year, I will say, we've definitely seen an uptick in his pick rate across the board. But the first play day in DarkZero versus M80, we saw quite a bit of Echo play from DS Lucas, albeit that was on Bank instead of Theme Park. We've also seen NJR, that anchor on the site, that second support that Jesse was so impressed by, gave the support of the stage award to. He'll also play that Echo inside the site, and I would not want to face him with an MP5 1.5x. I also just wouldn't like to face him in a gunfight at all. Starting out, we'll have Lab as our first snipe, and this is something that I believe it was M80 did on their Theme Park. Instead of going from Throne to Bunk to Lab, they actually did the reverse. They started on Lab and then went in accordance with the sites that are more played by the defense. They went with the reverse instead of the normal one.
All right, let's get ourselves into it. See how exactly DarkZero are trying to take control of this first round for themselves. Away from the initial picks, we're not going to see any huge surprise when it comes to the repick. Pretty typical lineup here as far as the attack on Theme Park is concerned. The Dokkaebi even as well, kind of an expected addition near this point, considering the intel that she provides, and of course the carefulness you need to provide your entire team on the attacking side to make sure you don't get tripped up by those early roams we were talking about in the pregame there.
Yeah, M80 are a team that if you let them lurk or you let them rat in a corner, you're going to get flanked. And even if you know that they're, one of you guys is probably going to die. The max you can go to be careful, whether it's bringing a Dokkaebi or setting up 8 flank drones or what have you, you should do that against M80 if you're going to do it against any team in the NAL, because if Spoints somehow gets behind you, one of you guys is going down, even if you end up trading him out. Likely DarkZero will also start to look to maybe establish some throne control early, but Pambazoo now rappelling up as well. Might be mainly on the east side. DarkZero, I think right now just sending out feelers, because no, instead, Pambazoo will rappel up, but he'll join the Thermite and the Sledge on the top floor, try to pressure these roamers inside of Bunk, Daycare, and Break Room before moving on forward with the rest of the clear.
Quick little mini EMP to try and pop open the main wall, getting themselves into the room, and indeed it will succeed. No counter to be seen from the defense. Not that they would have had one anyway, as the X-Kairos are already used up by Gomez. That would have been the only thing they could have potentially done, and obviously a little bit late to the party anyway with the quickness that DZ followed that through with. So first opening is made. We're going to see a few players across the map start to reposition, mainly just those extensions upstairs now falling back to the actual site itself as they can no longer maintain with that breach.
C4 prepped by Iconic, currently standing, I believe, underneath the Daycare floor. DarkZero need to be careful. They have that Sledge, they have Achieve, looking to open up these angles, but as the C4 blows up, it doesn't kill him, but it does quite a bit of damage. And as we said earlier, Theme Park attacks can often come down to the little things. And something as small as a Sledge on low HP might do you in the end. Hatch still closed on Split, so those defenders playing inside of Throne can likely remain alive for the remainder of the round. Not a lot of time left for DarkZero to open it up or clear them out. So if they want to win this, it might just be from pushing down staircases and maybe getting a lucky nade kill, as they still have 3 remaining.
Achieve with a wild nade going down below, probably taking out a few pieces of utility, but nowhere near any members of the defense here, as that's starting to become a bit of an issue, and especially so now that the rest of the execute is following through. 2 immediate, now 3 defensive pickups from the side of M80. 1 trade was found, but it was only utility-based from a nade, and while of course that's great to see, it's really a sign as well the team hasn't necessarily found the confidence to go for the full amount of map control yet. Canadian goes wild there in the final few seconds and steals away 2 more kills, but the result is still ultimately the same. M80 control most of the pacing here once the gunfight gets started and never really trip up along the way to take the round.
And this is the benefit of M80's way of going about the site rotation compared to the normal or status quo, because teams will start on throne, you expect them to get thrown, then they test themselves on bunk and daycare and then lab. But M80 are very confident in their throne defenses, so they start on lab, which is typically, at least in conventional wisdom, what you imagine to be the hardest site for the defense to win, especially in comparison to a site like throne. But M80 have 1 lab first, so now they get to go to bunk daycare, which should be a bit of an easier time. And now DarkZero worrying a little bit, like, okay, well, we haven't won lab. They're going to go to throne at some point. We really need to try and win this on bunk daycare if we want to be a lot more certain in the attacking rounds we're going to acquire. This was also the site, though, of that very quick Panwazoo 4K almost ace to end out the map against Beast Coast last week. So if there's any team in the NAL right now who I think has the roster and the strategic acumen to get a very quick round on the board, especially on bunk and daycare, it's DarkZero, and it's with the lineup that has now just been locked in with Panwazoo on that note.
Heading out to defuse a bomb.
So we've got DarkZero out on the board yet again. You're going to see them once again start to move forward, take that initial map control away. M80 not really throwing a whole lot of wrinkles into this one with their own setup. So it should be a pretty straight follow-through for the rest of DarkZero, just spotting out those early players. It's going to be the difficult part here, as we can see. Once again, expanded outwards into areas like Initiation. We have M80 more than ready for the initial challenge. We got a stat, too. So far in the NAL, Spoit has gotten kills in 72 out of 129 rounds. Out of those 72, he went on to get more kills, 32 of them.
It sounds like he's pretty good.
Yeah, it sounds like he's a gamer.
That's all. He's just good. He's good. He's good at his job, and he plays the video game good. And that's what I would hope from Spoit, someone who has such a reputation and such hype behind him to perform as well as he has, because it's basically been him and Panwazoo fighting for that #1 and 2 slot in the entry department. If it's Spoit in the lead one week, it's Panwazoo in the next, and I believe it's Panwazoo in the lead right now. And Panwazoo looking to continue it as he's creeped up Dragon Stairs and is looking to maybe lurk behind the rest of the defense. Thank you, production. Glad we got clarification on that.
We can confirm Spoit is a gamer here.
He is a gamer.
We're going to see that Gemini run into one of the defenders. No kills, of course, be found just there. That's just Gavini's utility that gets shot out in the top left of your screen a few seconds ago. The rest of DZ continuing to move forward, though, with the clear now being found on the inside of Initiation. They can deploy the Selmas to start getting windows into the site, and M80 will have to respect that as they'll back away from the angle slightly here. Start to set up for more passive positioning to actually challenge the aggression once DZ are ready to flood through.
Very slow minute and 50 seconds so far. DarkZero have pushed their way up, as you said. 1 inside of Initiation, now 1 inside of Office. But looking to push for some more. Over by Yellow Stairs, there's one at the top. Panwazoo, he can very well see that he's here. Might be able to get a punch hole, maybe an angle, but it's a little too tight of an angle, unfortunately. I think that was more wishful thinking, unfortunately. But that's what the Selma's for. Now he can open it up, and now he can challenge to even get a nade through this angle.
Well, the dodgies, he has to chuck the nade out mid-spray from one of the defenders, but unfortunately not going to find much fruition from those nades either. Gave him way too much of a warning, and made he's able to get out of the way of those pretty much immediately, but we are going to see NGR find success on a direct play. Short-lived, though, as he's immediately traded out by Gomez. Panba now trying to follow this one up after the earlier unsuccessful toss of the nades. His teammate chucking in another one. This will prompt an opening for him to swing forward, and thankfully a free player just sitting on the ground. Gomez, of course, not able to spot that as it goes completely around his cone of vision, and all the unfortunate unscope there from Pam as he tries to dash closer to the wall, sends him down the river. Achieve will pick up one more trade, but M80 responds in kind to still keep us locked in the 2v2. And now DarkZero takes the edge with a nice swing from Gavini out towards the arcade hall. That impact, it's surprisingly little damage, actually. Not really going to find a whole lot, just a bullet or two onto either player here, but it makes it that much easier for Diaz now. Try and clutch this one back out. The 2 remaining players on DZ stacked quite heavily as well at the moment here. Setting up a potential clutch for Diaz if he has the right read on the situation. Tries to go for the headshot. shot, but Gavini's just a little bit quicker, beats him to the punch, and DZ will claim the round because of it.
Very close round between DZ and M80. Great job to M80 on playing so disciplined and playing those trades as well as they were, because a team like Beast Coast, you know, is no disrespect to them, but they might have gotten run over by that Pamazoo play from Nook, or Nook play from Pamazoo. There we go. I mean, he plays the operator so often, and it's basically synonyms at this point. They could have gotten run over by that and completely collapsed, but M80 are able to play the trade, take down Pamazoo as well, and it really came down to covering the plant, I believe, from NJR, if I am correct. But able to just sit and take down players as they walked up that balcony or walked through the site. M80 very easily could have won that if maybe NJR was even looking the wrong way or had poor game sense, but he doesn't. He's a damn good player, and because he's able to seal that out, DarkZero have gotten their one round on these on their attacks, and I feel like we might make a big deal of that so far, but let's see if they can get more, because if they can even get another attack on the board, and this is a close game, that could be the difference maker.
All right, well, once again into round 3 now, where we move down into the depths of the first one, as we are going to see. They're getting played out now by M80. Really working themselves over into that one after they've seen the style from DZ over these first 2 rounds. They feel ready to go on to what's usually the home point for a lot of teams on this map. But it's going to be the tertiary one this time for M80. So we'll see if they find just as much prowess from it, or if DZ once again has the formula ready to try and beat them out on this defense to set up for a second round and a lead, of course, along with it.
Likely see the cache clear from DarkZero, take control of top Dragon. Have those fire bolts and those smoke bolts, of course, likely the latter for the late round, but the former could very well be used for the early round, maybe clear out a position like bathroom and then get some control in cache, or even just hold that angle on the bathroom window. A lot of options they could go for, and a lot of options they got to worry about, because Gomez is playing aggressively on that doorway. And if DZ give him a little room and Gomez thinks he can get away with it, he might start to peek that cache balcony, and then DarkZero are in for a world of hurt. There's also likely going to be a slow game. First minute in, Pamazoo is actually in the building, but that's what we expect at this point. He'll lurk up Dragon 2 rounds in a row, take this initial bit of control, but it will likely still be a little bit of time before we see some capitalization from DarkZero.
Kavani and the rest of DZ still wanting to try and establish initial positioning now, as obviously they're going to get it over here towards Dragon's side, but moving into an area that M80 control just yet. The real challenge is still yet to show its face, but I believe it may be popping out soon as Kino is being pushed back a little bit further now, all the way into the depths of Bunk. Arcade hallway as well. Still wants to try and play into this if an angle presents itself, but he's a little too worried about drone presence, and he's right to be worried about it, as there we go. One rolls right up to his face, and that'll probably send him completely away from this position, potentially all the way back downstairs.
Some shots fired over towards Gavini. Does Pamazoo know the player's in break? He hears the Dokubi call and lands the shots. There's somebody playing the trade. Ooh, they're nearly a wall bang, but instead of 5v3 for DarkZero, as the 2 G36 boys, they both get kills, and Pamazoo tags on for 2. 3 total now for DarkZero, but it's Diaz and Spoit in the 2v5. I know the odds are dire, but 3 players from DarkZero are on low HP, and if there's any 2v5 I'd bet on or think might succeed, it's Diaz Lucas, the king of clutches, and Spoit, the man himself.
Yeah, so hoping for a free tap there as he peeks it a few times, but not able to find it. Spoit looking to do the same thing from down below here. But not able to isolate out anything just yet. Does find a target 2 seconds after that, but not able to follow it through, unfortunately. Worried about his safety more than anything. He's right to do so, given the fact that we've already been brought down to a 5v2, even though there are only 30 seconds remaining. That's the one thing playing into the players on the defensive side's favor at this point. And M80's favor is the fact that they have the time getting relatively low, but a nice nade flood is going to take out one of the 2 defenders. Diaz, however, ready for the challenge in the site itself. Takes out both the players, dropping in through the connector hatch. The outflash, though, loses his bearings for a moment because of that one, and finally presents the opportunity for Achieve to pick up that last kill as DZ. It's a slow process, but they do eventually get the job done and take the lead now at 2-1.
Really great vertical play and really great coordination by DarkZero there, because a lesser team in that 5v2, with that time remaining, maybe they get a little too excited, maybe they just hit the site or start giving away some 1v1s. But in real time, they see Spoit sprinting around Furnace and, well, the site as a whole, trying to evade those angles from the skeleton key, and then they see that Spoit has worked himself into Furnace. Now, this is great for DarkZero, who have created a vertical hole that completely cuts off his rotation out and also allows for a frag grenade. So they say pause while 3 of the attack is doing their own thing. The Buck and the Yana communicate, say, hey, this dude's worked himself into furnace, let's nade this guy real quick, and then they make it a 5v1. And sure, DS is great, but a 1v5 is not something that he's clutched very often, or anybody clutches very often. And because DarkZero are a team of such a caliber, because they've made it this far, it might seem like a small thing to give them props for playing a 5v2 well, but with how well they're able to identify an opportunity to get that second to last kill in real time and then take advantage of it without going overboard, it's nice to see just Siege played clean.
5 seconds to go.
Absolutely the case. So DZ now back into the fold yet again. Much like the previous round, nothing crazy coming out here for the attacking lineup. Defense is very much the same things. This is all about the individual play in the round itself. M80 giving a lot of that control over to DarkZero, especially inside of the mid round. Not feeling enough confidence to challenge for some of those plays. And that's, once again, credit to DarkZero's clear pressure. They never really leave a window open for M80 to lurk back around them, even with just the raw numbers they had playing into some of those clears. At 1.3 players waiting over by the initiation, bunk, and daycare area, potentially challenge it from DZ, but even so, didn't really find a whole lot of footing against that and just had to give those positions up to fall back into throne room, where even so, only 2 players made it back. Everything was said and done. DZ, of course, able to make very quick work of the rest of that one, despite the clutch attempt from Diaz. It's very much the same workings for the early round here on round number 4, as they take their time with things to try and completely suss out the extended setup from M80 before trying to clear it out.
Spoiled on the drone could have been a right target for a Taro drone, but NJR will stick with the utility clear at the moment. Pocket Mira, held by Iconic, will place to face that cafe wall. Mira can be so difficult, especially on a site like, well, Initiation in the Office in this case, but Bunk and Daycare and Initiation in the Office often have a lot of overlap between how they're defended. In this case, it's no different, as M80 are holding Bunk and Daycare to supplement and extend control of the site. And if DarkZero decide to pigeonhole themselves into a clear from Arcade and Cafe, those mirror windows can be very difficult to deal with, especially if Gavini tries to walk in from Cafe. Somebody might just be getting aggressive instead as Gomez fires some shots. With that deployable shield and the Mira, there's a lot looking at Gavini, and that puts a lot of the pressure on a player like Panbazoo to make his lurk be a lot more effective and compensate for that.
And as well, waiting for that opportunity to try and punish the peak from the connector joint, but not gonna be able to find it. Keno strikes first instead. Nitro goes out to that breach that Pam was watching, but no one in the area for it. Gavini does find it, pick up on trade via the nade toss in. Gonna go for 2, he'll find it as well. Iconic, none the wiser to the fact the swing came out from Gavini, so takes him down outright. Puts it down to a 4v3, now a 4v2 as Gavini finds a 3rd on the round, just knocks the head right off a spoit. Diaz has also been brought down to just a sliver of HP here, 1 bullet from anything, and he is a dead man. Keno, all that will remain after he potentially goes down, but oh, I like this from Diaz. He knows he's been pushed into a corner, so he tries to fight his way out of it, and he succeeds, knocking out Achieved. I don't believe anyone from DZ is going to be able to immediately counter his re-entry into the building as well, so he's still in the play. Oh, but there we go. Panba's now locked him out, and all that pressure comes right back onto Keno here for the 1v3.
Might just be spotted as well, but he's so lethal with his shotgun. If he can get this SMG-11 kill, this will be a lot more manageable, but DarkZero have found their way into Initiation. Almost lands the pre-fire, but a 4K from Gavini, and the other kill only stolen by 1 HP. I think Gavini is the MVP of that round, and that's not a hot take.
Absolutely the case. Agree with you 100% on that one. Gavini lights out play from the moment he pushes past Cafe there with the early nade kill to start things out. That cleared out the bunks area for him to push forward and take down the first player that was holding the rotation into the top of blue, and just continues to dominate past that point as well. Gavini finding all those individual 1v1s and able to take them pretty much immediately every single time. Great stuff from him, and it's given DarkZero quite the commanding lead now as we inch towards the end of the half at a 3-1 favor currently for that team.
And I'm glad M80 take this tactical timeout because the warning bells should be going off. This is a worrying position because this is DarkZero's map pick, so they did not get side selection, and M80, logically, chose defense. If anything, it should have been DarkZero going into this like, oh, guys, we really got to work for maybe 2 attacks, and that'd be a good situation. Not great, but that'd be good. M80 are now down 1-3, and the only round they have won, and guys, I cannot believe I'm about to say this, the only round they have won was Lab Storage. Not Throne, not Bunk Daycare, It was lab storage, the first site they went to.
Which they're going back to.
Yeah, which they're going back to, but it's often the tertiary site on Theme Park. That's good that you've won the tertiary site. I gotta give you that. But you've lost Throne. This is a worrying spot. And look at this stat. I was actually about to go look at these numbers and find it again. DZ, 89% of the time, when the other team takes a timeout, when the other team DarkZero are playing against, take a minute to collect their thoughts, DarkZero still win the round. And if that happens here, that means M80 will have lost every single site on Theme at least once.
I think there's a good reason as to why DarkZero may have such a commanding stat like that, especially, again, if they're fighting a lot of those rounds on the attacking side. And that's just because, again, they play... It's probably not the best way to describe this. They play like a very annoying early round where you can't really do anything against them because they're playing so heavily when they play slow. This is, again, into their drone game and into their intel game that if you try to move forward and set up for some type of play, you're going to get spotted. And they're immediately going to, like, hyper-focus 3 players on killing you.
Yeah, here's a great play. You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna flank Panbazoo. That's what I think. That's what I think's gonna win the round. I'll take a gunfight with Panba, the best entry player in the league. That'll set up my team good. It's just not gonna happen.
On average, DZ win, and then this is just following up a little bit more of a palatable way to read this other stat we gave you. DZ win 1.77 rounds on average after the other team takes a timeout.
That's just the numeric version of the percentage we gave you.
Yeah, pretty much.
You're not a percent guy.
So DZ once again just showing their prowess here. And again, we'll see if that stack continues to build on itself, as that percentage will be increasing if they find this round here with M80 just claiming that timeout before. That's all of the Goyo canisters gone now, I believe, with NJR sniping them all out, so no more delay utility. Those will be more than burnt out by the time that DarkZero are ready to move into the site. And you can see this once again. Like I said, DarkZero, there's just no way for M80 to do anything right now because they're set up so well secured for themselves that it would basically be suicide for M80 to try any plays right now.
Yeah, like, do you understand how annoying that is? Those Goyo canisters can waste, what, 80 seconds total? And they've all been popped by a Twitch drone within the first minute of the round. Now you're banking on DS getting a kill here, and he does. He actually does take a gunfight with Panbazoo early on, and this time it works out. Not only does Panba fall, but they also get away with that pick untraded. DS can push back to the site, and even though they give up throne control, that's about as good of an exchange as I could get. You lose all your Goyo canisters, all your late round denial, at least in terms of utility. You still have the C4s, of course, but all those Goyo canisters, but you take down Panba, that's close to an even trade as you're going to get.
Attackers dropped the
Did not end up flanking him out, but still took care of business, it seems. Panba is the first one to be routed out by M80 on this round. DarkZero still with a lot of work to do, and unfortunately not a whole lot of time to do it as well. Down to the final minute and only just starting to take this map control. This is the other side of the coin with how passively DZ tends to play things, but usually when they're moving, it means they've built up enough of a solid intel bank, and once things start moving for DZ, they very rarely slow down past that point. So a pretty quick follow through now that they are taking that map control for themselves. Some room being left open for M80 to navigate the map as we see Spoit nearly find that kill against Canadian, but Canadian ends up coming out on top of it instead here to re-equalize things down to a 4v4.
You also now can start pushing down yellow stairs as well, but there's still Gomez in the bathroom, so it's going to be a hectic one for DarkZero. No real clear entry into the site. This is going to be one that comes down to gunfights, and DarkZero will likely take every second at their disposal to either get a kill or get some more angles onto the defense.
They're getting chucked in here, trying to obscure the vision. Kino playing this out with the shotgun as well. One going to be spotted down below. It's a bit of a distraction. Two is achieved, is being shot at by a completely different member of the squad. Misses that player's transition, but where's the plant? 2 seconds remaining. Someone's got to throw this on the ground. No, we're just not going to see it happen. M80 bleed out the remaining time, and they end up winning it out here. So that 89% going to be dropping down a bit, as it seems they've gotten past the curse.
In the 11% instead of the 89, M80 will be very happy to hear that that stat does have some bit of a downside and is not completely 100% for DarkZero. M80 also, while it came down very close to DarkZero, again, this is not a team that gets over aggressive. They have a reputation for getting in your face, for taking gunfights. They're also a very intelligent team. They're not just going to give free picks, well, most of the time. Maybe in like a 4v1, some people get aggressive, but they're not a team that's going to start running at you in the mid-round when there's actual control and advantages on the line. And that's exactly what they did there. They pulled out a throne once DS got that opening pick, and they recognized, hey, this is one theme park attack, and also, there's only a minute 30 left. DarkZero still need to start pushing across the top floor. They're going to get vertical control because they always want to get some semblance of vertical control, whether it's throne or lab or whatever site you have in mind. Let's just wait out the time. They'll be slow, and if it comes down to 20 seconds, sure, they could still win the gunfights, and DarkZero almost did, but M80 held out, and that was the smart decision, and in this case, the right decision.
We'll see if M80 change anything up now as they move over towards Throne Room. They tried to set up very aggressively on the last defensive play here, but DarkZero made mid-speed of those extended setups really quickly and left not a whole lot remaining on the site. Basically a 2v4. They had to try and fight it out from. So we'll see if they're going to double down on that, which looks like it may be the case, at least partially here at the start of the round for M80. They're still doing a little bit of setup, so we'll have to wait a second for the full picture. But again, if they're going to end up full committing to this exterior setup, they'll have to make sure they can actually make some impact this time, as DarkZero, like I said, dealt with that without too much conflict, and then the actual site hold itself was left really weak because of that.
She moves to the top floor, opens up the hatch again. This first early round will just be DarkZero finding themselves, finding how they think a way into the map will be advantageous or disadvantageous to them. This is a good showcase of a lot of the times on these maps where the attack really has to be decently structured to take their time what you need to do, because you might open some windows or you might find an opening. But it also shows the downsides of Theme Park, because Panbazoo really did see an opening there. Storage, lab seems free, storage might be free as well. There's somebody roaming around there. I'll go take a 1v1 on Panbazoo. What's he gonna do, kill me? And unfortunately there, M80, a team that is so good on winning these fights, that is so mechanically skilled, that's not something that DarkZero can bet on as easily anymore. It can't just be Panba go kill a lot of the time, because M80 could fight you and strike you back without any opportunity for recourse, and that's what happened right here. An opening pick, untraded by DZ.
DZ still attempting to make up for it. A few of the other angles they're holding, such as we see once again their Yana being played by Gavini, trying to set up for something there on the arcade window, but a little bit detached from the action, and this is going to be a bold one if we see DZ go for it, considering it's just these two players as far as I can see. Gavini on the other side, the third one might be with them as well here, but not seeing on the silhouettes just yet here. And yeah, they hold it back after a little bit of thought to the process. I think that's the right choice ultimately.
I do like the thought, though. Both have Gons. One was going to burst open the door. One was going to destroy the barbed wire on the other side to make that rush as impactful as possible and as quick as possible. But they'll call it off for the time being, likely because Gavini and JR are not really close in position. And M80 could very easily rotate back if they have that split hatch open, or even sprint down yellow stairs to deny anybody lurking on the other side. And DarkZero in a rough spot. No vertical control like they had before, but Canadians found a kill. DS Lucas cut down, and he might now send it into the site if he's found his opportunity, and I think that might be it.
Kino responding to some of this aggression from M80. Gomez picks up another frag as well here, but NJR doing massive amounts of work to keep it even right now. Spoit, however, on the rotate back to the site, catches NJR, leaves it all unachieved, and achieved not even in the site as well, as Canadian had already been dealt with, and he was the one to make the entry. Now I'll have to try and go for this connector drop that has the position on Spoit, but you just can't close out on him in a 1v1. He's too consistent, and that flash, unfortunately, is not really affecting him in any way. So he's more than ready, as you see here on the replay, for the challenge when the swing comes forward. M80 re-equalize the equation now and bring it back to a much more palatable 3-3 scoreline for halftime.
Really like that decision-making from Achieved as well. Flash the player who can cover Spoit. You know he's outside a split, so you take the fight with him. Just overall, even though he lost it, really liked the prioritization of engagements from DarkZero on that one. So it's a 3-3 half. M80 went lab twice and thrown once, and DarkZero get a nice little smorgasbord of site wins, one on bunk, one on throw, one on initiation, but the headline in all caps is that DarkZero were able to get 3 attacks. That is normally a huge warning sign for the team's starting defense, and in this case it is for M80 as well. I mentioned earlier, and it's been mentioned multiple times so far, they're a team that very much favors relying on the Ying or the Monty or those other cheese ops or facilitators, as Nick and I tried to spitball a different name for them. And when those aren't there, they're still a good team, but it's a big part of their strategy to use those ops, and both have been banned now. So what are they going to do? Likely rely a little bit more on the structure. We'll have to see how those attacks on Theme Park pan out with these two operators banned.
Let's see now how M80 takes control of their own attacking side. A few repicks showing up for them, but it's changed up the hard breach more than anything, so it's not really earth-shattering. The overall utility players are remaining exactly the same. Dokkaebi, Jackal, as well as the Lion. I think go for the triple threat here on trying to hunt down the exposed players from DZ. They can track their feet, they can track their phones, and they can track their direct movement as well. So DarkZero has to be very careful with any sort of exposed play they try to go for on this round.
It's literally 1984 in round 7. All angles covered. Big Brother's watching you, and you gotta be careful. lest you give intel to literally 3 to 4 different members of the team at the same time. Spoit trying to look for some roamers up inside of Radar. There's not one in Radar, but there is one playing in Initiation right now. No footprints and seams, but still some control held by DarkZero and some aggression as well. M80 will very quickly move to open up Maintenance Wall, which you've not seen get a lot of attention from DarkZero, it feels like, or at least not a lot of the bulk of their push focused on it, more focusing on maybe the yellow wall or split. But M80, no, they'll go with the old reliable. Open up maintenance very early and now try to focus on acquiring top dragon control and clearing these players out from initiation.
Spoit the first to drop himself in. The smokes thankfully cover his entry, and then he follows it through on an apparently unsuspecting Panba around the corner, waiting outside of Dragon Window. Canadian also going to get down now by an aggressive Iconic, moving directly forward into Office to take him down. Good amount of map control stolen away, and on top of that, DZ not really able to pull anyone back from this to the site. So clean entry so far from M80 to take that solid control in the mid-round.
Still some roamers on that top floor, so M80 need to be careful, but they have that momentum, they have that advantage. If they find out that Achieved and Gavini are on that top floor, and one is even positioned more towards Arcade than Yellow, a side push might not be out of the question. If they can deal with NJR and pinch him and play trades, this could be a very quick execute incoming, but entirely depends on what M80 want to go for. They don't have a sledge or a buck, so unless they want to use that secondary hard breach, there's not going to be much vertical going their way. Maybe some breach charge as well. But look at them. They're consolidating bottom dragon. Gomez looking to join his team outside maintenance wall as well. M80 have read it, and as the roamers rotate back, M80 are going to start fighting the players on the site.
As they try to push themselves forward, Gavini and the rest of DarkZero here, seemingly ready for the test of aggression being thrown at them. But at the same time, that is going to be a lot of players suddenly broiling through with the wall breach as well as Dragon Door when they're ready to go for it. NJR with some potential to actually snipe a few of these away, because obviously they're going to get jumbled up. Kino, though, immediately trades out the one that NJR does find, and now down. Can't take it any further. Achieved is all that remains in the depths of Armory here. Gonna have to try and play this one out, but immediately Spoit once again shuts it down. M80 really coming into their own here over these last 2 rounds, taking the lead along with it now to push forward against DZ.
A great win to start out for M80, showing that even with Ying or Monty Ban, or even against DarkZero's 3 attacking rounds, especially this second part, that they're still able not only to get them on the board, but they completely outplayed DarkZero in that round. Spoit immediately drops down Radar, smokes off the initiation angle, not so he can push, but so he can take a fight with Panbazoo and make it more difficult for the defense to trade him out. And that is the 3rd in the past 3 rounds of Panbazoo dying early with no trade for DarkZero. That reliable entry, who leads his team in entries, by the way, by a wide margin. It's not like, oh, Gavini's a close second or something like that. Panbazoo literally has over 50 entry engagements, 33 opening kills. The next closest is NJR at 11. It is a drastic lead with how effective Panbazoo is in the early round. In 3 rounds now, M80 have basically slapped him and swatted him away like a fly, and Spoit, with that excellent played early round, was just the start of an overall beautifully played attack by M80.
So now we move back once again into DZ, trying to recenter things here, trying to claim that high point round so far, both in the half and in the overall game at 4-4. A little change-up's going to be made, of course, to the attacking lineup. They didn't really work with that triple threat intel combo for every single site. Last round's pretty simplistic when it comes to utility clear. So that was why they were able to afford to go for the Jackal Lion as well as a Dokkaebi. This round, though, as you see, they've had to bring a little bit more complexity to their lineup, specifically with the Flores being added in to take care of some of that utility, positioned deeper in areas like Lab itself, the IQ to potentially spot some of that out, and of course, hard counter the Soulless also, and then also things like the Buck being added in here so they can establish more prominent top-downs inside of the early and mid-round.
This is also one of the games with a team playing against DarkZero that has broken from the predominant trend in the NAL, which is banning Soulless against DarkZero. Jesse brought up all the way at the beginning of the stage. First play day between, I believe, think DarkZero and Mirage was the first one, but then DarkZero M80 was the second one, at how often Canadian played Solus at Invite. And that is part of the reason, aside from just her general annoyance as well, why M80, or why most of these teams have banned Solus against DarkZero, except M80 today. Now, Canadian has her on the board, but what's he going to do with her? At least in the early round, M80 have gotten a lot of their control, but they see the Solus down below. Canadian can see the drone as well, but now they know he's down below in throne and can test them from this split hatch. So potentially something that could have tripped M80 up on this clear as they move from one side of the top floor to another might not be as powerful for DarkZero anymore with that bit of intel, despite it being destroyed by the Solus.
Flash in, hopefully the entry to follow it up from M80, and indeed we do see that. They'll flood back in. That'll completely overwhelm the member of DZ that was holding the arcade balcony a few seconds prior. They immediately leap back down and rejoin their teammates on the site. Well, that's not necessarily going to save them. Panba, yet again, the first player to go down, which builds on what you were saying before. They need Panba for some of this early aggression to stem the tide against M80, and they're just not going to have it here.
Now 4 rounds in a row now that Panba has gone, and basically now, that's the point where it would have counted as a trade or not if DarkZero were able to get a kill. But there is still time to even the man count. Gomez is pretty much on 1 HP, maybe 1 or 2 bullets. Now Spoit has just joined him as well, but still, M80 are dominating the scoreboard and dominating this top floor. With Spoit positioned already low on arcade and some of these Goyos being popped, it'll be low on time. In fact, only 10 seconds if they want to push that front side once that fire dissipates. But M80 have the advantage, and if they're gonna bet this round on gunfights, they have the gap to do it with.
Let's see if they have enough pressure still built up with the 2-player advantage they'll have on entering into this site. DarkZero, they ready? This is a nice rotation opened up by Spoit to bypass the Goyo canister. They move in. Gavini immediately taking on some heat and just cannot sustain. 2 more pickups being found by M80. Leaves it all on Canadian now. And he's upstairs inside of the 1v3. We actually do see a Frostmat kill come through as well. It's not the spray from Canadian up on top. It's Diaz walking into the mat. Plant is going down though, so unless he can spot the planter, that is more than likely going to seal the deal on the round. There we go. It has been secured. Canadian unable to stop that plant from being found. Still kind of desperately hunting for top-down angles, but he's way off the mark, way off the intel specs at the moment here. Just going to have to try and jump down and guess his way to victory. Even has kind of a weird, unaccounted for wrinkle. And oh, wow, we got the freeze frame of that one. So they had a weird bug or something. But either way, Canadian gets decked as he tries to fall back down, and that will very quickly lead to the end of the round in M80's favor.
Get another very, very excellent round by M80. We saw that 3-3 half on attack against Beast Coast earlier on in the stage. I thought here, ooh, didn't get the dominant defensive half. Maybe it'll be different, but no. 2 very good rounds. DarkZero smartly taking a tactical timeout. Again, if you're just tuning in, this is DarkZero's map pick. And I was hyping them up. I was like, 3 rounds on attack. Oh my God. These guys are the GOATs. They're the Dons of
I was
theme
thinking the
park.
same thing, to be fair. But
I know, but now M80, 2 in a row. They win 1 more and get match point. They basically match DarkZero's record in this map.
M80's found a solution, and it's very simple. Kill Panba first.
I mean, listen, it's a little reductive, but it's a damn good solution. I mean, lie to you.
It doesn't get more complicated than that, really. Just choke him out, and from that point forward, DZ seemingly don't have a lot of aggressive power to throw out there, falling back pretty quickly. Even other players that are committed to this roam are very rarely finding opportunities to succeed, and when they do, there's usually too much utility flooding in, or there's too many players flooding in from M80, so they have to give respect to that and back away from it. So it's just not leaving any opportunities open for DZ to find solid footing in the early round. They need kind of a snowball effect, too, with Panba constantly being the one, as you said, I think 4 rounds in a row now that he's been picked off first.
Defuse bomb.
Hopefully with this tactical timeout, he will not make it 5. As if that would be disastrous for DarkZero's fortunes on Theme Park. Throne and Lab did not work for DarkZero. They'll try the 3rd. They'll move up to Bunk and Daycare. No Solus on the board, but Valkyrie also unbanned. So Achieved will pick her up, and Canadian going instead on the smoke. No lurking on defense for him. He often likes to be that solo player playing around the map or playing away from the site. Not this time, unless he's gonna roam on smoke, which don't do that. I mean, you could, but it'd be kind of weird. It'll instead mainly be Canadian on the site, holding things down, alongside likely NJR as well. Gavini, Achieved, and Panmazu will be the main aggressive force on DarkZero to deal with the players on M80, and I'm getting nervous because I know she's not as powerful as she once was, but I still see a Finka, and it's like Pavlov. It's just, I start shaking.
Well, let's see here. If M80 can continue the set forward here, find another opening pick against Panba. follow that snowball effect through into the site, as we've been seeing for so many rounds in a row here. Now, M80 really kind of stealing control away of this matchup right out of DarkZero's hands after they had a really stunning start to this one. Massive lead on attack, seemingly was going to set them up for an ultimate victory, but we have not seen that same success carry through on the defensive side just yet. Maybe this round is the one where they finally hit the ground running, but still, M80 actually giving us quite a passive start to the play on this round. Only just now starting to see them move in and take some serious map control as Spoit continues to navigate through the lab area.
DarkZero need to be careful. They'll know he's down in lab now. A Spoit shot the default cam, and somebody will move to play a little bit more aggressively on that landing soon after. Oh, but what a great Valkyrie cam. DarkZero have anticipated this position and through the floor. No opening death this time with a Z ping and sheer force of will. And a little help from his friends. Pan Mizzou has taken down Spoit, taking down one of the main early round lurkers from M80 that they were betting on getting either an advantage or just some passive control with, and a man advantage as well. Now, Iconic will have to fill this position, and he can get some nades from below, but DarkZero, they can sit pretty on the site because it's now M80 who has to play catch-up.
M80 finally put into an unfamiliar situation as far as this half is concerned here. And DZ, it'll be the same for them, even though it's advantageous to them in this specific scenario. So we'll see how they potentially try to carry that forward from M80. It's a lot of restraint, as we've been seeing in the early round too, but there's good reason behind it. How they've been able to circumnavigate to find these few kills in the past. Iconic will get the one trade, but he's now been found out as well by NJR. And as you can see here, as players attempting to work their way in through Arcade, just get decked completely by NJR with a nice combo of the Toxic Babe coming in there to help out. That was from Canadian to make sure that those kills could be found easily. Gavini with another one for DZ, and then Canadian will finish things off against the Cafe push. That's what we've been looking to see throughout this half so far, but it's been evading us. This time, they do finally find that solid footing, and DZ finally gets around on the board for their defense.
Great positioning from DarkZero in the late round there, because it wasn't, I wouldn't say it started to get worrisome, but M80 had something. Once Iconic got that kill on Achieved, that was the main player on Arcade Stairs. Now, again, it'll be hectic, as these kinds of executes always are, but you can push up Arcade, you can hop into Arcade window, you can push through Cafe as well if you want to, and just try and gamble the fights, try and win them with the 4v4. But DarkZero realized that that's what M80 were going for after killing on the Spoit. They likely saw Iconic as well fill that position on that same Valk cam that got Spoit killed, and they say, okay, let's just play our positions. NJR, keep an eye out on Arcade Stairs, so if Achieved loses that fight, you can trade him out. And Canadian, prep those smokes. Well, Canadian's actually saying this to himself in this context. He's like, Troy, you gotta land those smokes, stop them from hopping in the window, and that's exactly what he did. Because the moment NJR trades that out and puts it back into a 4v3, the entire execute, the entire push, basically choked off.
10 seconds remaining.
So now, DarkZero, like I said, finding that footing, being able to finally choke out some of the early aggressive swings from M80, limiting their options to an aggressive degree here too. Let's see if they can find that footing on multiple sites. Obviously, M80's options were limited in how they could realistically approach the site there. And more important than that, they never really decided to ever actually try and change things up on their own regard anyway. So continue to rush directly into the DZ setup, regardless of showing signs of fatigue there inside of the mid-round. Now, obviously, moving back over to Throne Room, the options swing open pretty wide for M80 to try and play out this site, so that should hopefully give them a little bit more leeway, take this control away, and still not lose the lead, which they've worked so hard to achieve here against DZ. Gonna go for the far left opening of the wall, just so they can slink back over behind the relative safety of Throne Wall, and no disruption to that. So a pretty quick opening here, and actually no, just to avoid the mute jammer, it seems, is why he does that one. So it's a bit of a limited angle, but hey, it works.
This might be a little bit of a tangent, but I want to talk about it, so I will. We didn't see DarkZero go for that maintenance wall at all against M80. And part of that reason, which also maybe ties into the zombie ban, is M80 have an impact trick that DS Lucas cooked up, where basically from the split door, he can impact trick an exothermic on maintenance wall. We did not see that same answer back from DarkZero, so Kino walks over, evades the mute jammer, opens it up. But that might be part of the reason why we don't see teams push maintenance against M80, because that impact trick, unless you literally rush someone's split in the early round, is literally uncounterable, and especially if a zombie is up, DS Lucas goes for it every single time. We didn't see any impact drift from DarkZero, they just relied on the mute jammer, and to be frank, maybe they didn't need to, because they take down Iconic on the ace, and even though they lose the Thorn, the active utility is lost for M80, whereas just a gun is lost for DarkZero.
So still locked at that 4v4 as we see the trades go back and forth, but as you said, Utility lost to a much greater degree the attacking side at this point, so they'll certainly be reeling from that. Thankfully, once again, the main access point is open. So they still have the backup in the form of Kino's secondary charge if they do need to open something else, but having those Selmas to open a secondary angle, there was going to be yellow wall, potentially barrels, even one of the 2 hatches that he could have potentially popped open as well there. Could have been useful, but not going to be able to see it come to bear on this time. Doesn't seem to be disrupting M80's clear too much, though, as they're already pretty well convinced they're going to be pushing this through. Dragon potentially have their 4th player trying to move in through the hatch. Nice little swing from Gomez. Their MJR seemingly having the angle against Gomez, dead to rights, but just can't land the shots. Gavini more ready for the challenge, though, as he's pressured as well by Kino. And as well, pre-fires gets a little bit of damage off. I believe it's Gomez taking the heat right there, bringing him down to just a sliver of HP. Now causing second thoughts from those 2 other players on M80, and if they want the challenge, there's good reason as to why they wouldn't. Gavini ripping off these players one by one at the moment here, Spoit. However, he's been a master specifically on this part of the map. This is so tough for Gavini to play into, but he gets away with 1. As you can see, that'll be 3 on the round. Smart. Backs away behind the breach as well, as he knows Spoit's gonna hyper-target him with how low he is. Spoit's gonna rush back outside, but there's already 2 players here defending the case. Now down outside of Dragon Door. Nicely done from DZ. They hold the line, and they pick up yet another round.
One thing also damaging for M80 in that round, 2 drones by a minute 30 pretty much. So gaining any further intel, even with a Dogaby call or those Inox scans, was going to be a difficult proposition, with the majority of DarkZero as well also sitting on the site by the time M80 were aiming to go to an execute. I mean, obviously you got to give a lot of props to Gavini right there, not only fending off that initial gambit with Kino pushing maintenance, but also he looked at Pamazoo and then looked away because he was like, oh, there's a guy pushing split, it's okay. And then right as he looked away, Pamazoo got domed. He was like, oh crap! And he had to start looking back over that direction. But DarkZero have held out remarkably well in these past 2 defensive rounds, and Panba, of course, able to get active in that throne round that we just saw as well, and in the bunks round as well. So even though M80 got a lot of good control in the early round, DarkZero, that was just a game of patience and seeing that M80 were likely low on drones, low on intel, and just letting them stall themselves out.
We've got, once again, the Solus in play for Canadian, if that's an unfamiliar outline to any of you here. I know the animation as well, and throwing something off. Is that an Oryx? No, it's a Solus. As Canadian is indeed moving around trying to scout out that drone presence, and is going to be able to find at least 1, I believe, but looking for a lot more than that as we get deeper into the round here.
Always want to go for more, especially if you survive to the late round and maybe spot out that diffuser. In this case, if you retake vertical control, you can spot the diffuser through the floor. The Canadian can see there are some players, or at least some intention by M80 to lurk or push the top dragon or the gong side. You can see 2 players now on the drone, and likely at this point he's calling to his team, hey guys, this is where the push is coming from. He even sees the DarkZero, and you madman, are you going to challenge this? You're going to try to take down the DarkZero, or take down the IQ that would counter the Solus and DarkZero? He will, but he'll fall back soon after, as the shots sadly do not land, but he'll hold throne, which is his actual job anyway.
That was a pretty bold peek too, when you consider the fact that the IQ had her gadget out, so that means that he would have more than likely been spotted too from that position. So the IQ probably aware of the fact that he was on those dragon stairs and still made the swing anyway. So for both of those players, it was a pretty aggressive movement. Either way, though, doesn't lead to a whole lot in terms of the fragging potential. We are seeing those Flores drones work their way into the site to clear out the Goyo canisters from Gavini. It should be able to do that without too much disruption because of all the offsite presence that DarkZero are currently throwing out across the map.
3 drones for M80. Chief won't likely look to push and be too aggressive. He'll just hold the passive angle, wait for maybe somebody from M80 to get aggressive, and now he's rotated back down to aid Canadian on the throne hold. Gavini also watching the bottom yellow. DarkZero taking up their mid-round positions to see if anybody from 80 pushes or doesn't drone or gets too aggressive. And as the attack starts pushing across the top floor, nobody is home. The area's been vacated, and that's good for Spoit. He can start using the skeleton key and carving up the floor. And this is the downside of Lab compared to a site like Throne, where the latter has minimal vertical destruction, and the former, Lab, has quite a bit that you can open up in Cafe, in Arcade. And even with 20 seconds left, like we saw Chief do on the attack, you can play these angles if you have the manpower and take some of these kills. Gavini put to low HP, and now a lot of defenders coalescing on the site. 3 inside Lab and Storage and 2 inside Throne, and maybe might be able to segment the defense very well.
Gavini with the first pickup this time as DarkZero yet again claims the opening kill at a very late point in this round to impact is out, but that only prompts the player on the other side. Bit dangerous for Canadian there. Thankfully still able to follow through with the kill, but Spoit also finds one of his own, trading out the initial kill from Gavini. Iconic forcing the issue now onto the inside of Arsenal. He takes out Canadian and opens up a pathway for the rest of his team to potentially try and carve through this. They'll be able to do so. Too much of an issue, but oh no, they've misachieved entirely. He's still here with a master flank against this entire push. He may not even be needed, mind you, at this point. Indeed, he is not. The rest of DZ just single-handedly shuts out the rest of the play. But even if that had fallen, of course, we had that brilliant flank still from the depths of Throne. DZ now taking it one step further, and we'll have this one single opportunity to close things down on match point.
M80 have certainly taken DarkZero to task on DarkZero's map pick, but these defenses have looked leagues beyond the initial set of two. But to be fair, M80 have also cooled down a little bit. These opening engagements have not nearly been as easy. In rounds 7 and 8, Spoit and Kino was able to open things up with a kill onto Panva, but still just open things up in general, and then take the lead and convert very effectively further from there. But all the rounds that DarkZero have won in this half so far, it's been Panva getting the kill, Iconic going down in the previous round, or 2 rounds ago now, and then Gavini opening things up on Aquino. So when M80 have lacked that opening pick, it's been very difficult for them to bring it back in the mid-round. That's not entirely their fault. Theme Park is a painful map to attack, and we're starting to see the problems of when you don't have that man advantage, and even if you lose the opening duel in the first minute 30 seconds, you still have to move your way through a very large map that has a lot of things to clear, and DarkZero just pull back and don't give you any opportunities to bring it back until you go for an execute.
And so for DarkZero now, it's time to try and shut things down, but they only have, like I said before, this one single opportunity to get it done. M80 in the meanwhile, of course, still with a lot of prowess built up earlier on in the game, just need to find that yet again. That entry capability has been evading them now the past 2 rounds. DZ has sealed up the hatches and has been able to avoid a lot of those issues that they were falling into at the beginning of this half, cleaning up this overall defensive play. Now making it that much harder for M80 just to trigger overtime at this point, but it's still certainly in the cards. 1 round sets the difference. We can already see Spoit moving very quickly through the first floor here. Not much of a defensive presence, though, in this position for DZ, so not going to be finding much on this initial clear.
There is one player playing aggressively, but oh no, he looks away. Canadian pushes his luck, outduels Spoit. Talk about a sentence that you probably won't hear all too often, but great play from Canadian. Also good Solus play in the last one, good smoke play here, but sadly, not a great play from Panmazoo. He's found out by Gomez, and that advantage acquired is now a man count equalized. Canadian will likely retreat either back into Vault or even closer to Yellow Stairs, because even though they lost Spoit, M80 have now been able to establish some control on the east side and then push into initiation and office, and they don't have to do it now at a disadvantage.
You know, a little bit of a problem trying to take out this Valkyrie cam. There we go. Only took like half a mag to get it done, but indeed prevents the intel now coming out from DZ. DZ did spot this before. It got a little view on the cam before it got shot, so they, of course, know that there's like 5 people now standing over here by Dragon Balcony. It's all about setting up the counter. You can see Gavini already in position to do so by initiation. The rest of the team, though, with a pretty passive stance, still keeping their mind out for any potential rotation that may occur to the other side of the map. We finally see another fight unfold, but it's a 1-to-1 trade between both players. Gomez and Canadian killing each other. 2 more come out from M80, though. It seems that this hold, once again, to build up intel, and it's worked out to a huge degree now as Achieved is left alone. Would be a 1v3 if he can clutch it out. He's got the first one already, but 2 more players still need to be found. He's given an angle against both of them. Only able to find any serious impact against Diaz, though. Once more, takes some heat as he tries to duel it out against Kino as well. Runs out of time, though, as Diaz closes the gap from behind, and we will indeed be going to overtime on the first map.
Finally, some good kills in the mid-round. Even with Canadian trading out Gomez, outdoing himself in that round with 2 kills on the smoke, 2 early kills on the smoke. That 3rd kill for Kino made the difference for M80. Because at that point, you have reception, you have initiation, you have office, you can start pushing forward and start pushing for more. Sure, you can't literally hit the site immediately, but you can start getting aggressive. Not only can you lurk further up, but also use the remaining time you have to set up and execute. They thankfully didn't need to do the second, because then they get another kill, and that's the round from there. These rounds have very often just come down to those early round engagements and then how well you can convert them. And now, M80 have just done it one more time to make it a 3-3 half on attack and defense for both teams. 6 attacking rounds, 6 defensive rounds between the two. But now DarkZero get a start on the defense.
And so we'll take a peek here at DarkZero and how they look to defend Throne yet again. See them continue to once again deploy quite aggressively here because we are going to be on that throne room site. Don't want to lock themselves into the basement essentially just early on in the round, as that'll create a very easy matrix that M80 can deploy towards here. So you're going to see their players stick it out once again. Panba over here on the Oryx as well, giving him quite a bit of mobility. We'll see if he's going to be able to levy some of that aggression more successfully here. As we talked about quite a bit, he has fallen off a tad ever since the first half had came to a close, and he's struggling to find those initial entry kills, which have been so beneficial for DZ when he has been able to scoop them up.
Gavini taking the mantle so far throughout at least this map initially, and to be fair, of like the main 3 aggressive players like NJR, Gavini, or Panbazoo, Gavini actually gets the majority of his opening picks on the defense compared to, say, Panbazoo, who gets the majority of his on the attack. Same with NJR as well. So for Gavini to take that mantle on the defense, it's expected, but you do want to see a little bit more out of Panbazoo. If you want to have that X factor, that one thing over M80 that they just can't match, it's this. But a drone immediately spots him, and he'll have to back off. Spoit looking to send it straight in the bathroom window. That would have been a crazy cutoff. He were just a few seconds earlier to take down Panbazoo, but still, he might send it in, and that'll be big trouble for the Oryx.
But continuing to look for an opportunity. See him just dashing around to reposition a bathroom instead of the direct play from the hallway. It's NJR actually, though, that strikes first here from down below the site hatch. Believe it or not, Iconic gets spotted out trying to cross that, and surprise, Panba leaps out of the vault. Spoit none the wiser to it as he gets right into his face and immediately knocks him out. So a good start to this one for DZ yet again. Panba, he's in the Matrix now. A second kill also found for him. A third one maybe in the future as he knows he's got a target over here on the other side of initiation. Already beat him to the punch in the first peek. And tricked up though. Thinks he has another challenger coming at him from top blue, but that's not going to be, or top yellow rather. But that's not going to end up being the case, I don't believe anyway. Panba though still being presented with more and more of an angle against Diaz. He's going to get him eventually here as Diaz has been brought down to about 10 or less HP now. But either way, let's put the fear into him. And is now going to finally retreat, feeling that he's done more than enough for this situation and what it demands.
Panbazoo's fighting for more. Diaz unfortunately turns his side to the Oryx.
Just playing with him now.
Make it a 3K for Panbazoo. Gomez hoping to set up a pinch on top. Dragon is now alone down below. Low health, does know somebody's in bathroom. There's your one, but now you got to get more to convince us that you're worthy of match point and worthy of a 1v5. And John, if he were to do it, that'd probably be the biggest statement of the NAL.
Gomez certainly hoping for a clutch here and certainly playing for it as well, but the pinch already established against him even though he doesn't know it just yet. Gavini seals the deal. And that's DarkZero taking initial control at overtime. One more round to go out of the next 2, and they take map number 1 of the series.
Able to win Throne, but again, this is no defender-sided nor attacker-sided theme park. It's even between all these teams. So it's really going to come down to the quality of play, as it always does, but especially so in this case. Between DarkZero and M80. DarkZero went to Throne. We just saw they're able to win it. Not entirely off of the roam from Panbazoo. Of course, I'm sure there was intel supporting him, but very much off of Panbazoo finally heating up, going from 6-9 to 9-9, I think. Yes, 9-9. And now M80 will go back to Throne as well. This side was not the easiest to win. Not the easiest to win for either team. But for M80, this was the second defensive round that they dropped on their first half. DarkZero able to establish some very solid early control on the map, then converted effectively by the end with some vertical control, and it was, I think, a 5v1 or a 4v1 by the time they ended the round. So how they change things up here, it'll have to depend on maybe their operator selection, but honestly, the way I'm looking at this, I think they're just going to try to play the hits.
We shall see as pretty much every single member of the team is going to end up re-picking their operator as well. Either a misread on the site choice or just feeling something else in terms of the strategy department. One little wrinkle gets added into it from Panba at the very end of the re-pick phase as well. They once again add the Amaru back in here for that Gara hook. So we'll see what hip he's potentially going to be able to deploy towards once we get into the nitty-gritty, as it were, of this round.
And normally we'll see that Amaru maybe send it into break room and then start to apply early pressure to anybody playing, sure, inside a bunker daycare, but Iconic's position like Arcade, Kino, maybe playing, you know, inside of bunk, sure, but also with a rotate into initiation. That's a very common position that we see the Amaru go in from, and likely we might see Panmazu go in from, but he's not over there right now. He's on the opposite side of the building, in fact. We're over towards bathroom, which is where we saw Spoit try to enter from in the previous attack. Now, there might be a gap. There's somebody playing top Dragon, just like there was for DarkZero in the last round. And DarkZero starting to set up in positions to deal with them. One on the hatch, maybe to drop vending later on. Gavini also maybe pushing in from Arcade. So still plenty of time for DarkZero to rotate or change their mind. But Panmazu seems pretty well stationed over on that bathroom side, and Canadian will instead be the one to deal with the break room players.
A lot of hesitance from DarkZero right now, just due to the fact that, again, M80 have been a little bit hard to crack in the early round, playing very individualistically. At least initially, that's the appearance they give off. So just take a bit of time to figure out that setup. And even when they're ready to move forward, as you can see, it doesn't always work out. Gavini, now the first one to get dropped as they try to challenge Spoit. And once again, just the mention of his name should state just how prominently he's able to show up inside of some of these 1v1s. So there's no problem knocking out Gavini, no problem taking down NJR either, as that was second kill in the round, just straight up challenging the cafe door at this point also. So disrespect even from him here, as I believe that was the last player to even challenge Cafe, so he's going to be able to evacuate that position pretty soon and rejoin the rest of his team. Won't be getting any shenanigans out of the guard hook this round though, as it just looks like Pam wanted the gun more than anything here. So he'll make the usual entry towards Gong and proceed forward from this point.
It's a long farewell from M80 to DarkZero in round 14, but it won't be the end of the game if they win this. DarkZero are certainly going to have a very tough time. Still one player on the top floor, though he will quickly leave his position, rotate back down. And there's still Spoit. Old, reliable. Is he going to get 3? You're goddamn right he's going to get 3. Make it 4, honestly, while we're at it. Nah, Panmazu will shut that down real quick. But at this point, sure, even Achieved has Iconic, but these are the players off-site. And oh no, what is this? Kino's still moving around the bottom floor. Maybe they just have the 2v2 they were looking for.
But is he going to be aware of the lab setup? That's one of the big questions. He kind of suddenly made this move, and they're going to force themselves into the site. Kino immediately snaps the jaw shut on this trap as well. Not going to even give a hint of an opportunity to DZ to take site control. There we go. Beautifully played there, specifically by Kino in the final moments to shut out that potential clutch from the 2v3 and give the round over to M80 instead. Once again, the final round is needed to settle this matchup as it goes all the way to round 15. This is just map number 1, 2, so we still have plenty of action to go after this.
Still 15 more rounds, of course, and then 15 more rounds after that, I'm sure is what M80 and DarkZero have in mind. What more could you want from the final game of the regular season of the end? Well, I guess I always make the mistake. Playoffs technically aren't regular season, I guess. Got the postseason, then you got the LCQ. The final map before the LCQ.
It's the playoffs of the regular season.
See, I'm not a sports guy, so like all of that, I'm like, how do you say it? Like, what do you?
That's the way I say it, right?
This is all just letters on a screen.
I think that makes sense.
Like, what does even overtime mean anyway?
Attackers have
What does
located
it mean?
Well,
There's still time on the screen, John. How are we over it?
It's more over round in this case, but you know that's not a real word. Yeah, that's not a real word. So I guess I understand the usage of it here.
M80 able to win their only defense provided to them in the overtime. Now we have to see if they're able to recapture some of the energy that they had on the attack, because neither team so far able to meet the same heights that we saw from the attacks on Theme Park. So M80, they're unfortunately in the position where they got to show up. We're also going to be DarkZero winning this 8-7. I
just saw the Spoit as a game.
No, I was about to end it, and I saw that, and I started chuckling, and now I don't know what I was going to say.
Rounds where he got a kill, 56%. Rounds where Spoit got a multi-kill, 25%. I thought that was going to be like a competing stat from someone on DZ, but nope, just building up Spoit's name a little bit more.
We're just hyping up Spoit. 14-11, woo-woo! Baba Booey!
Spoit has indeed been dominating as far as an individual performance is concerned here for M80. The rest of his teammates have been having a show every once in a while as well, but he is certainly the standout right now, especially when it comes to those early round kills, challenging Panda for the title there on entry, and quite often being the one to take him down as well. Not only that, but being the one to even close out on a large majority of these rounds, whether it's from a 1vx perspective or otherwise.
Gomez, the tip of the spear now. No Spoit to be found. He's his own man. He can do what he wants. In fact, he just might spot someone sitting on camp. No, it's an electronic nearby, but there is someone on the opposite side of that wall. DarkZero will have to be careful. Doesn't fall prey to the 5.56 or really any gun on M80. The attack will start to open up some of these vertical angles. It's a lab storage defense, and that'll be looking towards Canadian. Everyone from DarkZero, the ops might have changed. We might have a Cade instead of a Solus, but they're all in the same spot. So you got a couple players playing passively far back on that top floor. Canadian playing in Throne, and what is this? Achieve will rotate and help Canadian down below. This is what DarkZero has done on their lab defenses. Every single time, essentially, they've gone to it so far. So M80 don't have an opening. DarkZero playing the same positions, but with no advantage lost means there's still an advantage to be gained. So M80 will clear this utility, but look to this vertical destruction that they can establish, as minimal as it might be with those breach charges, and then see if they can either deal with a player in Throne or open things up with the players on the site. Especially if it's the latter, DarkZero have to be careful.
Spoit and the rest of M80 continuing to build up the top-down intel right now, not necessarily looking for an immediate execute, but they want to find this for later on in the round. And by later on, I mean like 20 seconds from now, as they are quickly running out of time here with only 50 seconds to go. DZ yet to be tested on their site setup, but a lot of it being revealed by what was open up top here. A lot to still burn through on the site there as well, specifically by Bathroom, as we saw, I believe, at least one of the Goyo canisters still in the midst of its burning, and at least one laser gate blocking away too. But first entry is clean, coming from Iconic to knock out Panda. Rest of M80 gonna move through here. They take that initial control on the inside of Bathroom, but Gomez doesn't necessarily feel the confidence to swing through this and take actual site control just yet. No one has really set themselves up to breach forward into Lab or even the Billiards window. But now we're going to start to see that come through as Gomez is able to sink a second kill for the squad here. Moving forward past that point, Cavini has been the only one to respond so far on the defensive side. DarkZero just does not have the setup for this, it seems. Canadian left alone, and he'll falter as well. Nicely played by M80 as they brute force their way into the site and steal away map number 1 out of DZ's hands.
With that, they win their opponent's pick, and we'll throw it to a quick break and then have the analyst break down that slow but sudden M80 victory.